This is Optimal Finance Daily, episode 2230. Frugal or Cheap, How to Tell and Why It Matters, by Vicki and Amy Blacklock of WomenWhoMoney.com. And I'm your host and personal finance enthusiast, Diana Merriam. I'm here narrating for you every single day from some of the best articles on the web when it comes to money and finance. So without further ado, let's get right to today's post and optimize your life. Frugal or Cheap, How to Tell and Why It Matters, by Vicki and Amy Blacklock of WomenWhoMoney.com. Whether you just embrace the concept or you've had a focus on becoming financially independent for years, you're building good money habits and saving for the future. In order to save more, you may be tracking expenses, using a budget, working side hustles, or adopting a minimalist lifestyle. You may even do all of those and more. But with a laser focus on saving, it can be hard to spend, and some people always struggle with spending their money. Questioning each purchase, working more hours, and adjusting how you live can help you reach your goals faster, and others may take notice. You call yourself frugal, but friends or family members might call you cheap instead. As you seek out great deals and practice savvy spending, they tell you to live a little because they don't think twice about spending money. Then you begin to question yourself, am I frugal or cheap? You embraced frugality, but the label cheap makes you cringe. How can you tell which one you are, and does it even matter? What it means to be frugal. Some people use the words frugal and cheap interchangeably, but when you consider examples of each, it's clear that there are important differences between the terms. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines frugality as the careful management of material resources, especially money. Being frugal is being careful with your money. Frugality means your spending decisions are aligned with your priorities and values, not going without or suffering because you lack things you need. It means that you cut back on frivolous spending, stick to your budget, and spend more on things that matter to you. When you spend, you do so thoughtfully, purchasing quality items that last longer or reduce the impact on the environment. Buy gifts to brighten someone's day, even your own sometimes. Frugal choices might include buying generic drugs when possible, cutting out cable TV, buying things you use in bulk, choosing less expensive options over the big four mobile phone providers, picking favorite store brands over national brands, buying shoes or sneakers for comfort and support, not just style, establishing sinking funds for family vacations and future home expenses, adjusting the heat or air conditioning a few degrees to conserve energy, using coupons and cashback sites like Ibotta or Be Frugal when buying, shopping at discount grocers like Aldi, driving older cars or driving your new one until it won't run anymore, borrowing books from the library rather than buying them, or having cookouts with friends rather than dining out. Most frugal people don't make all of those decisions, but they consider both their short and long-term goals and make choices to help them meet those goals. What it means to be cheap. Cheap is defined as at minimum expense, or for little cost, according to Merriam-Webster. While it seems like being cheap should be your goal if you're trying to save money, there's more to it. If you're cheap, your only goal is to save money. You spend as little as possible and you don't worry about how it affects anyone or anything else. Your decisions might negatively impact our world, but you don't care because it saves you money. Being cheap is being selfish with your money. And while you think your actions are forgivable in the name of saving money or taking care of yourself, ignoring other people, their feelings, and even their bank accounts can hurt you. Being cheap might even have the opposite effect and cause you to spend more money and time in the long run. Cheap products often break or wear out quickly, needing quicker replacement. When you're cheap, you have money, but do things like give a lousy tip, or worse yet, no tip, even if you had great service. Buy inexpensive items like clothes or shoes that fall apart or only last a handful of wears. Lie about your age or your kid's age to get discounts. Disappear when it's your turn to buy a round of drinks. Buy impractical, inexpensive gifts for people just because of the low price. Wait to replace bald tires on your car. Come up with excuses to miss important events because you don't want to spend money. use a product and then taking it back to the store for a refund, choose the lowest bid for a repair without checking references, or DIY something that isn't safe for you to do. It makes sense that you might be cheap if you've had trouble with debt in the past and are afraid to spend. But some people are cheap because they don't really care. If you have money but you're scared of spending, shifting your mindset to frugality and adopting an attitude of gratitude can help. If you want to save when you go to a restaurant, skip the beer or order an appetizer as your meal so you'll have money for a decent tip. Go to a matinee to save money at the movies rather than having your child lie about their age. Skip the cheap gift and do a chore to help the person or give them something homemade. Replace your bad tires so you avoid an accident which could cost you and others money and your health. And borrow a tool from a neighbor instead of buying it and returning it to the store after use. Saving money matters, but your approach does too. Trying to save money can be a real challenge, and there may be times where you find yourself being cheap instead of frugal. If you're worried you won't recognize it, your gut will probably let you know if you're being cheap. If you're questioning whether you should add $1 or $2 to your waiter's tip, go ahead and do it. If you're wondering if your sister will really like what you picked up for her birthday on the clearance rack, if it's something she'd like, that's fine. If you bought it because it was cheap, return it. If you plan to make up an excuse to skip out on your cousin's wedding because of the cost, set up a sinking fund or think of ways to make some extra money. Sell something, side gigs, etc., so that you can attend. When spending money to buy or do something will put you further into debt, do what you can to limit your spending. But remember that penny pinching and cutting corners can be detrimental to not only you, but to others as well. Frugality and mindful spending on what matters, along with regular saving and investing, is a great combination for enjoying life while saving money for a financially secure future. You just listened to the post titled Frugal or Cheap, How to Tell and Why It Matters by Vicki Cook and Amy Blacklock of WomenWhoMoney.com. I thought this was a great explanation on the difference between being cheap and being frugal. For me, being cheap is rooted in a scarcity mindset, and being frugal is rooted in an abundance mindset. Being cheap is being fearful. Your only concern is saving money regardless of the consequences. So for example, perhaps this causes you to choose the least expensive fast food for your meals. Spending a little bit more money at the grocery store and more time learning to cook will be much better for your health in the long run. When you're frugal, you're discerning about your money, but you also know you have enough, so you're not going to be a cheapskate over things like tips. Frugality for me is about resourcefulness and creativity in getting your needs met. This will inevitably help you spend less, but the primary goal is to get the appropriate amount of value out of the money you do spend, not to try and reduce spending in a way that feels like deprivation. That should do it for today. Thank you for subscribing to or following the show. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you tomorrow where your optimal life awaits.